You brought that song to us, and it's perfect because today we are talking about love, love, love. This is our second week of Advent. And Advent simply means it's a celebration of the arrival or the coming of a significant event. And from a literal perspective, of course, it's the celebration, the arrival of the birth of Jesus. And metaphysically, we know that it is the celebration of the arrival of the Christ consciousness, expressing in and through and as us. It's the birthing of that Christ consciousness. Now, I want to share with you an article from, a piece of an article from Unity Magazine. And if you don't get Unity Magazine, I highly encourage you. There's always some wonderful articles in here from different Unity ministers and just Unity people in general. So if you don't get this, I really encourage you. I think we have some copies in the bookstore to check it out. But this was, it talked about we talked last week about this whole 12-21-12 and how the Mayan calendar has ended and what does this mean and is the end of the world coming. And so they had a really great article about that. And part of what they said is that, in fact, I wrote it for you as well. Let's see if it'll go. Maybe? Can you flip me one, please? There we go. Thank you. I may have to have you do that for me. Thank you. The Mayan inscriptions simply mark the passing from one great cycle of time, the fourth sun, to another, the fifth sun. They see such a momentous change in time cycles as a harbinger of a new birth in the world, a call to reconnect with the divine. So what they're saying in this article was this was never intended to be the end of the world. It was never about that. But they recognize that there's this change of cycles that is coming, and it's our opportunity to move into a different place in how we interact with each other. One of the quotes is, "We are moving from a time of duality to a time where we claim our oneness." And it's our oneness with our Creator, but it's also our oneness with each other. We move from this idea of separation, and it's all about me and taking care of me, taking just care of my family, to recognizing that everybody is our family. And that really is what this topic is about today. I could not possibly talk to you about everything I'd like to talk about love today. It is such a huge topic, and it's so important in our world today. Last week, we talked about the first week of Advent, which was hope, and that hope precedes faith, and thank you. And it is honoring our purpose everywhere. Corrine Craig came up with this acronym, and I love that. When we honor our purpose, which is to be the expression of God, to be the expression of love and connection and oneness and goodness and hope and peace and abundance and all the qualities that we would say God is. When we honor that purpose everywhere, then we are truly stepping into being the change that we would like to see in the world. One more, thank you. Christ in you, your hope of glory. Thank you. He's going to check it for me. So Christ on us is our hope of a different life, a different world, a different way of being, a different way of connecting. So last week we lit the candle. I didn't actually light the candle for love, but we'll just pretend that I did last week. And this week we're going to light the candle, for hope. We're going to light the candle for love today. And of course in the middle we always have the Christ candle, because no matter how we've been showing up in our own lives, how other people have been showing up, that Christ light is always there. It can never, ever, ever, ever be diminished. And again, that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So the next slide is 1 Corinthians 13, faith, hope, and love abide. But the greatest of these is love, absolutely. And if you could go forward one more. The late Reverend Eric Butterworth said that someday, perhaps soon, mankind will learn what individuals have always known, that love is the only true creative force in the world. And God and love are synonymous. They mean the same thing. And so when we talk about God, we're talking about love. There is only one presence and one power in the universe, and that is love. Love is that which harmonizes. Love is that. It will change our personal lives as we move more fully into it, and it will change the world. I love that in Reverend Eric Butterworth's article in here, he shares a story, and it's a true story, about a sociology professor. over 25 years ago that sent his students out into Baltimore and had them go and get case histories on 200 young boys at that time. Coming back, they read over the case histories, and each of them were to write at the bottom of the case history what they thought their chances were. And without exception, every single one said they have no chance. There's no chance. They have no chance in life because of their case histories. Well, about 25 years later, another sociology professor comes in, and thank you, and he sees that this was done over 25 years ago. He's intrigued by it, so he has his students now go out and try to find these 200 now young men. They were able to find 180 of them. 20 of them had either moved away or died, but 180 of them were still living in the area. Out of the 180 that they found and talked to, 176 of them were really successful in their lives, like more than successful in the sense many of them had become lawyers and doctors and accountants and so on and so on and so on. So this professor was really astounded by this because, here was this thing that 25 years before said they had no chance, but almost all of them really thrived. And so he decided to go and to talk to as many of this 180 as he could, and he would ask them, what was it? What was the magic formula that you came out of the slums and you're living these lives? And they all said, there was this teacher. So he got the name of the teacher, and the teacher was still alive, so he went and he met with the teacher. And he said, what was it? What magic formula did you use to help these boys come out of the slums and into a life that they're thriving? I'm going to read to you. The teacher's eyes sparkled, and her lips broke into a gentle smile. She said, it's very simple. I loved those boys. I loved those boys. And the thing is that all of us can relate to that because we know how it feels to be loved, to be seen, to feel oneness with somebody. For me, a word that is synonymous with love is oneness. It's our unity. She saw beyond the facade and she saw beyond the history, and she loved these boys no matter how they were showing up. And the end of the article says, where there was no chance, love found a way. Where there was no chance, love found a way. And that is why love is the only true force in the world. Now, when we look at the Christmas story, the hope of the world that was Jesus was brought forth through the love of Mary. Now, not just the love of this baby that was growing in her body, but it was the love that preceded this baby coming into her body. In the apocryphal scripture, which they're not canonized, and don't even ask me what all that means, but that sounded kind of good, didn't it? But they're not in the regular Bible. It was sharing that at the age of 3, Mary was dedicated to the temple, and she lived there until she was 14 years old. So metaphysically, what Mary represents for us is the soul that magnifies the Lord daily in the temple. So let's hear that for just a moment. The soul that magnifies the Lord daily in the temple, and through its devotions prepares itself for the higher life. And I remember years ago when I was really working with this, that for the first time I really got it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why the first great commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. That's the first great commandment. And isn't that exactly, you go back, and that is what Mary did. That's how she prepared her being to birth Jesus. And this is for us. We love the Lord our God. When we align our mind, our heart, our soul, our strength with just being in love with God, that is when we prepare this vessel for the birth of the Christ. This is, I love how Scripture goes, because Scripture almost always tells us what to do and also how to do it. And so this first part for me in really loving God and magnifying God is about having a spiritual practice. Having something every day. And I really want to encourage us to start our morning in some way with some spiritual practice, whether it's meditation, whether it's a reading that we have, maybe it's great music that you love to listen to that inspires you, sitting out on your deck and being with nature, whatever it is. but something that connects you with the greater, grander aspect of the allness of, what we call God, but you may not call God, the creator, the intelligence, whatever it is. But we really start to magnify that within ourselves. And when we do that first thing in the morning, don't you really know that it makes your day a lot better? Yes, it absolutely does, because we're already there. But not only just, once in the morning, but I really encourage you to have different times when, have something in your car that reminds you, have something on your desk at work, or, at, other places in your home. But we want to magnify our love, the love of just what is all around us, and what breathes us, and what grows us. So, okay, I forgot that I had that there. So, my soul, my beingness magnifies God. So I'm going to invite you to say that with me. My soul, my beingness magnifies God. Together, my soul, my beingness magnifies God. Now, as I shared, this scripture tells us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And that's one aspect of it. But it really tells us even further how to do it when it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Who's our neighbor? Is it the person who just lives next door to us? No, our neighbor is everyone. This scripture is saying that we love everyone as we love ourselves. Now, where do we really start with this scripture? With ourselves. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Now, you can do this both ways, either or, but I found in my own life that the more that I love myself, the easier it is to really love other people, because most of the things that block me are things in myself. Most things that block me from really loving other people are judgments in myself, and programs in myself. And as I really start to focus on who I am, and feel that. So here's what I mean, is that, and sometimes we just forget this because we are so good at beating ourselves up. Is anybody here good at beating yourself up? Oh, I didn't do that good enough. I'm not spiritual enough. If you ever think or say the words, I'm not spiritual enough, stop it, please, because you are, and you're not doing it wrong. This is a journey that all of us are on, and every single one of us trips along the way, and we fall by the wayside, but it's only feedback. That's all it is. It's never failure. It's only feedback, and we get up and we, decide if we could do something differently. What I know is that at this moment, every single one of us is purely and perfectly loved. You are seen, you are known, and you are loved at this moment in your totality. And, however you view God, whether it's, I think most of us here don't view God as that being in the sky, but rather as this love energy. But however you view God, God never sees the things that we see in our mind that we think are wrong with us, or that we've done wrong, or character defects, or things like that. All it sees is its perfect perfection. And the beautiful thing about it is that no matter what we've ever done or said or anything in our lives, the love that God is will never hold itself back waiting for you to get your act together. Waiting for you to do something differently. The love that God is can't do that, because it is love. The only thing that it can do and be is love. And so at this moment, and so for the loving myself, the first place that I had to start was to let myself just close my eyes, and just to remember that at this moment, I am purely and perfectly loved. Seen, known, I am purely and perfectly loved. And as you allow yourself to feel that, it is an enormous feeling, because we don't often go there. Most of the time, we're finding what's wrong with ourselves, whether it's with our physical bodies or our life experience or whatever. And so this is really about letting yourself feel and know that which has created everything doesn't see any of that, and only loves you fully, completely, perfectly in this moment. And just let yourself truly, truly feel that. And then the affirmation is, my soul magnifies God within myself, within me, which would be the correct grammar. Within me. Okay, so my soul magnifies God within me. Together. My soul magnifies God within me, within me. Now from this place, and this is, I know, I forgot to tell you about these ones, because this is about awakening your spiritual heart. And I love that love is the secret password to every soul. Love is the secret password to every soul. This is about now loving others, because when we are truly in that place where we love and accept ourselves, I can tell you 100% from experience that I react a lot better to things that are coming at me that may not be so positive, because I'm okay within myself, and I'm not having to judge or to make wrong somebody else for how they're showing up. So we go back to now that we love God, we love ourselves, and we love our neighbors, and we're going to magnify the love that we see in them. And so this is really easy to do, isn't it? When it's easy to do. You know, when it's people that are easy to love, that's really, really easy to do. But it's harder with some people who are different from us, who have different ideas, have different morals and ethics, have different values about life, or someone who seems to be against us, either with words or actions or with judgments. You know, that's a little bit tougher, isn't it? We go out into the world, and of course, we're immediately making judgments about people, but what about just people in your life that you feel that show up in weird ways, and how do we love them? And I love the scripture in Luke 6:32. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners, even people who miss the mark, love those who love them. So it's really a call, because when we're placing someone way outside that circle, we're not in unity, we're not in oneness, and we're not working together. And please always hear me on this. It doesn't mean that we don't set healthy boundaries. Now that may seem odd to say don't place them outside the circle, but there is a difference. We don't allow somebody who is abusive in any way to be in our personal space. We make sure that we keep safe emotional, mental, physical environment for us. So we can set those healthy boundaries, but we don't make them bad. We recognize it's a behavior, but that their beingness is the same as ours. And so we move to that deeper place. Charles Fillmore. Love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. It insists that all is good, and by refusing to see anything but good, it causes that quality to finally appear uppermost in itself and in all things. Divine love is impersonal. It loves for the sake of loving. It is not concerned with who or what it loves, nor is it concerned with a return of love. Like the sun, its joy is in the shining forth of its nature. And you know what? Your nature is to be that love. You are God expressing. And as God, remember, God only loves. God cannot do anything but love. But, we've been given this great opportunity to be in these physical bodies with these minds and these hearts and these emotions. And our job is to, as we talked about through the Lazarus experience, allow those things to fall away that are not of our greater reality. So we get to have wonderful experiences in our lives that help us to shed those things, right? Anybody in an experience right now? I am. Okay. So I thought about how do I do this though? I'm experiencing something right now where I've had a really hard time. How do I love this person? How do I move beyond this stuff? And part of it was going into myself and knowing that I am purely and perfectly loved at this moment, knowing who I am and knowing I'm integrity with myself. But I still, I was cracking up because I realized as I was working with this that I was having unrighteous judgment about this person having unrighteous judgment about me. So, but I felt justified in my unrighteous judgment, you know. So it's interesting as we start to get clear on this. So I thought, okay, well, what are some ways that I can start shifting that? And one of the things that I've worked with before is, well, what can I find about this person that is good or that I like? And, sometimes even that's hard, isn't it? So maybe it's they have nice hair, I'm sorry, Joe. Or maybe it's that they sing really well. But it's being able to find some things that, and the idea here is simply we're trying to shift us. So if I can at least find a few things that I think are good or nice about this person, then when those other yuck thoughts come up, I can shift to those thoughts. Now, part of it too I recognized was that there is a sense of unforgiveness there. And so I want to share with you what Gerald Jampolsky said, because I love this. He said, forgiveness is based on reality. It overlooks the evidence gathered from the point of view of a single body and turns instead to the universal truth of our reality, that each of us is innocent and loved completely by God. Forgiveness is the gentle vision that sees the maturity, the goodness of the heart, and the wholeness of character that will come in time to each person. And I obviously can't share with you everything about this, but forgiveness, again, it's not about allowing behavior that is not acceptable into your experience, but it is then creating those healthy boundaries, but then from that place, continuing, and even just opening ourselves up and saying, I really want to let go of these feelings. I really want to love this person. I want to see the reality of this person. Help me in my unbelief. Help me in my unbelief. So we open ourselves up to that help that is always, always there for us. So my soul, do this. There we go. Magnifies God within others. So let's say that for a moment. My soul magnifies God within others. Now I have to share with you real quick because I love the Christmas movies. I'm a Christmas movie nut, and I love how in the most of the Christmas movies are about someone, who is bah humbug, and then the end of the movie is they feel loved, and they change. And so we've seen the characters like the Grinch and Scrooge and Jack Frost, and horrible, conniving, mean, horrible, spirited, grumpy beings who want to steal everybody's joy. And I thought about, we all probably know people like that in our lives. But the message that we get from these movies, that it may be a fictional thing, but the reason that we resonate with it is because we know it's true. That many, many times it's a lack of self-love within themselves. But when just one person, in these movies, it's usually one person sees their reality. One person is willing to magnify that love, that it changes, all that stuff melts away in a sense. And so, really a lot of what today is about is who's calling you today to love. Who in your life, in your work experience, in your neighborhood, and in your church, in your family, who is calling forth the Christ in you? Because when people show up in our lives and we have these feelings, the opportunity is ours. The opportunity is always ours. And I'd also say, who is calling you to be the beginning of their Christmas story? To be the voice in the wilderness that is saying, I see you. If you've seen the movie Avatar, I love that because they always say, I see you. And they're not just saying, I see you physically, but I see you. I really see you. So I want to close with something by Emmett Fox, and this is on the power of love. There is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer. There is no disease that enough love will not heal. No door that enough love will not open. No gulf that enough love will not bridge. No wall that enough love will not throw down. And no error that enough love will not redeem. It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. And if you could love enough, you would be the happiest and most powerful person in the world. That's the power That's the power of love. So I'm going to invite us to just say these affirmations together as we close. Together. My soul, my beingness magnifies God. My soul magnifies God within myself, and my soul magnifies God within others. And have a beautiful, beautiful, love-filled week. You are the change in the world. God bless you, and namaste. Namaste.